Well, we've gone through the 5 base form, and that was an adventure, and that's about a year-long adventure, and then just doing it with each base with a different form, and then doing the 5 base form in itself as 5 bases, and that's done with the hands, and then we end up doing that with one weapon. Well, it takes a long time to do that, and it is a lot to remember as well. What I'd like to do next, and I think it's going to be exciting, because what I'm going to do is take one 26 move form, which is going to be form 79. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn it with the hand form, and then we're going to learn it with about 5 or 6 different weapons. So I don't want to go any more than that, but I think that's a good base for the Sansu weapons to do the first, variation of 5. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to take a much easier set to learn, which is just one base, and that 26 moves you can ingrain it into yourself pretty easily without trying to remember several bases. Take that one base, learn it with the hands well for about a month, and then take another month and learn it with one weapon. So it'll probably be like a staff for the first one, so the stick. Second one, maybe the sword. We could do single sword, double sword, and we could use machetes, we can use broadswords, whatever you have at your disposal, but it's a single bladed weapon. Then chais, and we can use spear, we could do knives, 2 knives, we could do the songdao or the butterfly swords, ripping swords, anything like that. Okay, so we've got all of these as available weapons, so I'm probably going to pick at least 5 or 6. I'm going to try to stay within that. I don't want to go any more than that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start on that, and I think it'll be a good adventure. I don't know how many of you have learned weapons in that way, where you're taking a weapon and applying it to the same form. And you're learning how to take those exact moves and sequences from the form that you're doing with your hands in a certain way. You might be grabbing and pushing, you might be doing different things. And then how do you apply this to a sword? How do you apply this to a stick? Even a baton, a short stick. There's different things that you can do where it's very valuable to know these things. Double knives even. How do these moves work where you got 2 knives in your hand? Does it have to be reversed? Can it be out? Should it be reversed? Different things like that. So it'll be good. It'll be an adventure. And I'm really thankful to Carl Lorenzen for showing me these things, because I started learning weapons with the forms from my very first belt, from my yellow belt. I have a spear that I still have today that I have had for over 30 years. And it's a great spear. I built it myself, I made it. And my yellow belt test was with that spear. So, very cool. Anyway, so I learned weapons with each belt. I had to learn 2 or 3 different weapons in addition, sometimes 4 or 5. When you get into brown, black belt, and so forth, you've got to know more, according to Carl, I did. So what I did is with each form, I took it upon myself to start learning more weapons. I was curious, I was excited about it. So I would learn 2 or 3 weapons as a green belt with that one form. Then I went and further and further and further. I started buying more weapons. I started getting more things, moon knives, crescent moon knives, different things like that. And I ended up walking up to Carl with each form that we learned, and he would just sit down and watch me and correct me with each weapon. So once a week, I would come over with a different weapon. And so within a couple months' time, I'd been there with 8 different weapons with that one form. I'd go home and videotape it, so I'd never forget, and then that way I would have that as kind of a logged, documentary of what I did for that period of time with those weapons, with those forms. So I could always look back in relationship to it and see how I learned it exactly. Later on, you start to do things differently on your own, and you start to favor different things. So a lot of things you learned, they're there, but you do it your way eventually. And so I have a kind of a different set of things that I do that I enjoy doing. So that's kind of what I present. And I'll show different ways that you can do things as well. But I try to keep it as simple as possible, because there are different things that do get more complicated with the weapons, and I think it's just more important to learn the basics and how they work. So anyway, I'm really glad that I did learn this. Now I can share it. And it's one of those things that I think are unique. And I think all masters should have a basic understanding of this stuff because, you know, it's the weapons that Jimmy taught, and he did teach them to certain people. He did teach them to some of his students, not to everybody. And so if you have a chance to do this, it's going to be an adventure. It'll probably take us, you know, 6 months, maybe 7 months to go through this whole thing, and then you'll learn 5, 6 different weapons with the hand form. Before, as you know, we did the 5-base form, and that took us over a year. Each form we did it with one weapon, and we did 5 of those. So we had 5 different weapons. Then we linked it all together into a large 5-base form for a month. Then we added another weapon, just one weapon for all 5 bases. So it'd be the same weapon for all 5, and then we completed it. And that took probably 13, 14 months, you know, to finish that. And so that's a lot to remember, it's a lot to learn. Comprehensive, I don't know how many people were able to retain all of it. But this is more easily retainable as long as you practice the weapon. Because it's just 26 moves, it's this weapon, then that weapon, then that weapon. And you're gonna pick your favorite weapons, or you're gonna be like me, where you wanna know how to do them all. Just, you know, not perfectly, not expertly with every single weapon, but an understanding of how to use each one so that you can teach them and that you can use them. And if you have anything that comes across in a fight, you can use it as a weapon. And if you've done a lot of different weapons, you understand how to use pretty much anything. All right? So it'll be fun. Let's go ahead and get started. And any comments or anything that you guys have, just let me know. And questions, always questions, you know, any why questions, how questions, anything. They're all good questions, okay? So thanks, and let's get started.